Hi everyone, it's Nash. Today is March 27th, 2014, and I am 2 months on T. 2 months, officially. So it's a nice spring evening. I got some frogs chirping out my window here. I don't know if you can hear it. Can you hear that? Probably not. I always suspected that there's a pond behind my across the street neighbor's house, but I don't really know. I definitely have not heard frogs chirp anywhere else in Portland. When folks come over to my house, they're like, are those frogs? But yeah, those are frogs. I don't know where they are, but they're really romantic and nice on a spring warm evening. So it's been a good week. It's been a good 2 weeks. I guess I haven't checked in like 2 weeks. A few more changes have been happening. I've got some additional hair on the upper lip here. It's kind of hard to see. Nope, not even gonna try. And actually some chin hairs. They're like white. They're like bright blonde, so there's no really seeing them. But if I turn my head to the side when I'm brushing my teeth, I can see them, and I can even kind of flick them without touching my actual chin, which is progress. It's progress. So that's happening. Some hair, not really on my legs. Kind of been waiting for that. I've got really patchy hair on my legs and I'm kind of waiting for that to fill in. Kind of excited about that to happen any day now. My shoulders are broadening still, which is nice because though my hips are not narrowing yet, the broader shoulders just make me look a little bit more angled, make my hips look a little bit smaller because in comparison, my shoulders are wider. So that's a nice thing, that almost like a nice illusion to occur. I'm liking that. I've got, my face is masculinizing a bit. What that means, I'm not quite sure. It's always kind of this just like thing that I can notice, and I'm not really sure what's different about how I look, but when I look in the mirror, I feel like I just look a little bit different, and definitely kind of more of a masculinized face, more masculine face. I think that some of the bloat that I was experiencing is going away, which is nice, so I'm not feeling such like a chipmunk anymore, like I got my wisdom teeth out or something. So that's nice. Cycle's still happening. That's a bummer. That happened, and more so than before I started tea, it really messes with my emotions, just kind of a mood whirlwind, and that's no fun for anyone really, including myself. Just, you know, feeling just irritable, short patience, feeling a little bit annoyed with folks, and so been kind of carrying that with me through the week, and am kind of excited that it seems like that's passing as of today. Feeling in lighter spirits, feeling in a better mood, which is nice. So yeah, that's a bummer, and I'm hoping that next month that doesn't occur. So cheers to that idea. Though I know folks who said that it took about 3 months, I also have heard folks say that at like 8 months on tea, that was still happening. So I'm really hoping I'm not one of those people, because that just sounds brutal. So hopefully this is my last. Hopefully it's sayonara, and moving forward I can feel more at ease with my emotions as well as just my body on a monthly basis. So looking forward to that. Acne. Lots of acne. Now, I know that I'm a really fortunate person in terms of that, so what lots is to me is different from other folks, and so that's subjective, obviously, but for me, my skin has gotten a lot oilier, and while you might not be able to see it, luckily, because I'm like pretty washed out in this intense light that I have shining on me, especially around my mouth, it's significant and just like oily. Like I'm trying not to even touch my face. One of those changes that you don't really want to see happen, but they happen. And I've, you know, heard plenty of talk around acne, what's the word? Precluding? Acne precluding hair. I don't know what that word means. Acne comes before facial hair does. So if that's telling, then my chin should be growing a full beard by next week. My voice is a little bit deeper, I think, and that seems to be fluctuating. Like some days I will be singing in the car, which I do on a daily basis, and I realize that I can hit different notes, or it's just like more fun to sing because I sound different, and I like to hear that change. So some days I'm speaking and I really hear a difference, and then even just like a few hours later, that seems to change. So that's interesting. But to me, I sound a little bit different, and I'm looking forward to that being more significant, more noticeable. It's exciting to be 2 months, to be starting my 3rd month, because I think a lot of the more significant changes really start to be apparent in the 3rd month and the 4th month. So I feel like I'm getting there. You know, there's some significant changes I've experienced, but not a lot of folks have noticed them. I've actually been misgendered more than I have in ages in the last few weeks. I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure whether I am beginning to look more androgynous, and so for folks are, you know, perceiving my gender expression as even more androgynous, and really going with one or the other, and going with she and going with ma'am more often. I don't really know what that is. I don't think it's that I'm noticing it more. I really do think it's happening more, because I always notice. So that's been happening a lot and has been a little bit confusing. I mean, I know that I'm being read as female almost all of the time, but just the fact that folks are really going for it with the ma'ams lately. I'm like, really? You're gonna ma'am someone who looks like me? Now, I know there are plenty of folks who look like me who do prefer ma'am and she, and that's great, but just to make that assumption isn't a very safe assumption to make. How I'm being perceived, I think that's always interesting, because it changes in different spaces. Because while that's happening, when I'm accessing stores, when I'm you know, whatever, when I'm out in public, I do this training also. That's what I do for a living. I do this LGBTQ cultural competency training. And part of the training is that I ask folks to perceive my gender expression. So I've got this spectrum from like hyper feminine to hyper masculine, and I move my pen from one end to the other, and I ask folks to yell stop out loud when I've gotten to a place on the spectrum that they read me. And it's actually been really interesting. In the last 2 days, I've had 2 different trainings where I've been perceived more onto the masculine spectrum than ever before. And it's kind of funny because I have a few jokes that I throw out during my training, kind of loosen people up a little bit. And one of them is that my perceived gender expression tends to fall. Okay, so this is going to take more explaining. The activity is called Gender Gumby, and there's a big picture of Gumby behind the spectrum lines. The perceived gender spectrum line goes right across Gumby's crotch, and androgynous area is like right on Gumby's crotch. And so I always make some joke about my perceived gender expression being Gumby's crotchal area, and it gets a big laugh and it loosens people up, and it's one that I rely on in my trainings. And lately, I haven't been able to make that joke as well because I'm not really right there. I mean, today I was. Actually, today I was, and I was able to make the joke. But yesterday's training, I was way more towards masculine, like hyper-masculine on the spectrum. And so I wasn't really on Gumby's crotch. I was like, oh no, I need that joke. What do I do? So those are some social changes that have been happening to me, being perceived more masculine in these trainings, but then also having these interactions in public where folks are saying, yeah, but I'm gonna she your ass. I don't know what that is. I think maybe folks get nervous and say what they feel like they're not supposed to say sometimes. Also, it's Portland, so there are a lot of gender nonconforming folks and queer folks around, so I think folks perceive gender in a different way here. Because they see a lot of butch women and masculine female identified folks around, then who they perceive to be a woman, or who they perceive to use she pronouns, for instance, has a lot more room for movement in terms of gender expression. That they might see somebody who presents and expresses themselves really masculinely, but still understand that, or believe that they understand that that person still uses she pronouns. So while that's great for folks who do use she pronouns and express their gender in masculine ways, it's not so great for folks like me. But really, I mean, it's very rare that I encounter a space where folks are going to assume I use they pronouns, which are the pronouns that I use. So it's not really something that I ever expect, to have my pronouns assumed and used correctly on a first go, especially if somebody hasn't checked in with me about it. But he does feel better than she for me. So I would prefer that. If the perceptions changed, even though they'd still be misperceptions, they'd be closer. They'd feel better to me, more affirming than she, which sends like alarm bells going off on in my head. The only other update I have is that Abigail sent a letter to her family and let them know that I'm on T, and also that I changed my name, and even that I changed my pronouns, because most of them were unaware that I used they pronouns. It wasn't something that you know, we had let folks know in her family before. So that's exciting. We're getting inundated with a lot of positive support. Her family's wonderful. So I'm really just overwhelmed and excited that they are supportive and on board. Abigail's family has a family reunion coming up this summer, and I'm really looking forward to having a lot of fun with all of them. So I'm glad that maybe a lack of exposure, education around trans folks and trans experience isn't going to get in the way of us just like having a good time as a family. So really excited about that. Also, I sent out a mass email to a lot of my friends, mostly folks who no longer live in Portland or never lived here, folks from back home in Albuquerque, where I'm from. So I sent out a mass email to folks, some folks who I'm pretty damn close with, and other folks who I haven't talked to since high school. So it was an array of people of very different relationships with me, and definitely different levels of exposure to trans people and education around supporting the trans folks in their life. So I tried to write a letter that was going to be accessible for folks who know very little about trans identities, while also informative and complex enough to really say what I need to say around my identity, and just authentic to me. And I feel like I was successful in that. Got a lot of really great support from people, and am just really overwhelmed in this entire process. It's been a lot easier than I thought it would be in terms of interacting with folks and coming out and disclosing my identity and disclosing what path I'm taking in terms of hormones and things like that. So it's awesome, feeling really good. There are definitely folks who I haven't heard from yet, who I've got my fingers crossed that I will hear from. But, you know, who knows? It might be that they're unsupportive, or it might just be that they're busy and haven't gotten back to me. I'm hoping for the latter. Well, I think those are all the updates I have for now. Not a whole lot going on, but exciting stuff nonetheless. Feeling really good. So signing off for now. 2 months on T. See you next time in about 2 weeks. All right. Bye.